Hello students. So students, in the previous class in the chapter that is force and laws of motion, we had discussed here that what are the different types of forces. So students, you know that the type of forces are basically divided into two, and that is balanced forces there and unbalanced forces there. If we talk about the balanced force, so the force, all the forces which is acting on an object, if it is equals to 0, then we will call the force as a balanced force. It means if an object is there and the forces which is acting on it is balanced, or they cancel the effect of the other one, ultimately the whole force will be equals to 0, and we will call it a balanced force. We have seen the lot of examples regarding that. If we take an example of a tug of war, so we have seen that if two teams are there and one team is applying the same amount of force like the other one, so ultimately the forces acting by that of the two team will be equals to 0, and we will say that the balanced force is applied by both the teams. Now, if we come to the next force, and that is the unbalanced force. So, the name itself says that it is not a balanced force. So, here, the force which is acting on a body, all the forces which is acting on a body is not equals to 0. It means one can be greater than that of the other one. So, here, one force which is applying on the other one is greater than the against force which is acting on the body. Ultimately, it will make the object to move. We can say that the unbalanced force, basically it help in movement of the body. If rest body starts moving. So in that only, if we take the tug of war example again, so you see if both of the teams are applying the force and one of the team is applying more force as compared to the team first, then we can say that because of that the force F2 will be greater than that of the F1 and make the rope to move in the F2 direction. Okay. And we can take an example. Suppose you want to push a table. So table is there. If you are pushing a table and the force of friction which is acting on the table is also equal, then the table will not going to move. But when you apply more force to overcome the force of friction which is acting on the table, ultimately the table will move. So here the force F2 which is applied by you is greater than the force of friction F1 applied by the ground on the table. So you can see here student, here the force is not equals to 0, but one force which is applied by the other is greater than the next one. Now we have seen one thing here, that the unbalanced force make a rest object to move. But it is not always in all the cases. It can make a moving object to come to rest. How? You see, we have seen an example of a cyclist. So a cyclist is there and he is cycling, and when he paddle, then he is applying a force on the cycle. So while paddling, he is applying the force, and due to which the cycle is moving in a forward direction. Right? Now, at that time, we will say that the force which is applied by the cyclist is greater than the force of friction. So if the force which is applied by the cyclist is F1 and the force of friction is F2, at that time F1 is greater than F2 and cycle starts moving. Now he stops paddling. The cyclist stops paddling. At that time, slowly you will see the speed of the cycle will start coming to rest. Now what happened? You see that F1 starts decreasing and F2 starts increasing. F1 is the force applied by the cyclist. F2 is the force of friction. Okay. Okay, now you see here students that as he is not paddling, at that time F2 starts increases but F1 starts decreasing, and ultimately what will happen, the cycle will come to rest, because at that time F1 will be smaller than that of the F2. So cycle comes to rest. Now you have seen here the two cases occurred. In the first case, when the cyclist was paddling, at that time the force applied by him was greater than that of the force of friction, and because of that you see F1 is greater than F2, making the cycle to move, and we will say that here the force of friction is lesser. Okay, and the stationary object starts moving. But in this case, in the second case, when the force of friction becomes more as the cyclist stop paddling, then the cycle comes to rest. So here F2 is greater than F1. Now you see students, here one force is greater than the other. Here also one force is greater than other. Here the cycle starts moving, but here cycle comes to rest. So it is not necessary that unbalanced force is always a cause of making an object to move. It can do the opposite thing also. It can also make an object to be at rest. Now let us move. And we have seen here that what are the different types of motions, what are the different types of the forces, and what do we understand by the force. Now, we are saying students that the cyclist was paddling a cycle, and when he was, okay, now, if this if the cyclist is moving continuously, if the cyclist is moving and a force of friction is acting on the cycle, and if the cyclist is not paddling, then we are saying that the force of friction make the cycle to stop. Now what will happen if suppose there is no force of friction act on the cycle? So at that time we will say that the cycle will not going to stop, but it will continue to move on the road, right? So here an external force is there which is acting on the cycle, which make it to stop. Now on the same basis students, we will start with that of the Newton's laws of motion. Although the three laws of motions are differ from each other, so let us start with Newton's laws of motion. So the chapter name is force and laws of motions. Now we will see here that what are the different laws of. So let us try to understand the Newton's laws of motion. Okay, Newton's laws of motion. Basically, if we talk students, the Newton had given three laws of motion. Newton first law of motion, second law of motion, and that of the third law of motion. And these laws, actually he has given laws which describes the motion of the bodies. And that is why we call this laws as a law of motion, and since it is provided by Newton, then we will call it as a Newton's laws of motion. Now, Newton law of motion, basically it precisely define that of the force. Okay, so we can write it that these laws describes about the force. Describes the force. And not only this, but it also establishes a relationship between the force and the state acquired by the body. Describe the force, and as well as it also describe the force and the relationship between the force applied by the object, the force applied on a body, and a state of motion acquired by it. So if we talk about the Newton's law of motion, basically it helps in giving the definition of the force, as well as it help in establishing the relationship between that of the force which is applied on an object, on a body, and the state of a motion acquired by that body when force is applied on it, whether it will be in motion or whether it will change the direction or whatever kind of a effect can be seen by us. So Newton, he has explained the three laws. So we will start with that of the Newton's first law of motion. Newton first law of motion here. Newton law of motion, in which we will talk about the first law of motion. So, suppose a student, if we are talking about the first law of motion, so here, if suppose an object, a book is kept on a table, so it is at rest position. What will happen after some time when you look at the book? It will remain at the rest position. After half an hour, again when you look at the book, it will remain at a rest position. If an object is moving, so if any force of friction is not working on it, it will remain in the motion only. It will continue to move only. So by this, students, we can say that an object remains at rest, object at rest will remain at rest, object at motion will remain at motion. Now, the book which was there on the table, when you touch the book, when you push the book, what happened? The book moved forward. And again you push the book. Then again it moved forward. So here you have seen that it was at rest until and unless you have applied a force on it by pushing it or by changing its state. So if you had applied a force on the book, that force is the external force. The same thing happened with the ball. If a ball is moving on the ground, it will continue to move until and unless you apply a force and stop it. That is what, by this only we get the conclusion of the Newton's first law of motion, that an object at rest will remain at rest, object at motion will continue to remain at motion until and unless an external force is applied on it to change its state of rest or of motion. That is the Newton's first law of motion. Let us write it, the Newton's first law of motion. Newton's law of motion. So here, student, we are talking about the Newton's first law. Newton's first law of motion. So here we can say a body at rest will remains at rest. A body at motion will remain at motion until and unless an external force is applied on it to change its state of rest or of motion. Okay. Now we have seen here, this is what? This is the Newton's first law of motion, which explains that object at rest will remain at rest, object at motion will remain at motion or will continue to be at motion until and unless we apply an external force on it to change its state of rest or of motion. So you can see here, student, if the book was kept on the table, when you lift up the book, at that time only the book starts coming in motion. Or when you apply a force to stop a ball, at that time only we can say that external force is applied on it to stop it, to show any change in the moving body. So here we are applying an external force. Now when the book was kept on the table, it do not want to change its state, it remain at rest. And this is the tendency of each and every object. They do not want to change its state. Like if a chair is there, so it will remain as it is. It means it do not want to change its state. If a bicycle is there, so if it is moving, it will remain as it is. And when you apply a force, then only it will show any kind of a change. It means it do not want to change the state of rest or of motion. And the tendency of this, of every object around us to do not change its state of rest or of motion, that is what, it is a kind of a property which we will represent it by inertia. Okay, so we can write it that every object, I am writing it with the point and after that I will write that what do we understand by inertia. Every object has a tendency. What kind of a tendency? Not to change its state. Okay. Has a tendency to not to change its state of rest or of motion. So every object, they are having a tendency not to show any kind of a changes. It will remain as it is moving or at rest. It do not want to change its state, whether it is a state of a rest or of a motion. And this is what, this is the property, and that is known as inertia. Okay, so we can define inertia as, actually it is the Newton's first law, and Newton's first law which recognize that every object is having inertia. Every object, they do not want to change their state. Okay, so we can say that Newton's first law of motion recognizes that every object have some inertia, and due to which they resist any change occur in the body. So we can say that Newton's law recognize that inertia possessed by every object in a small amount only, but inertia is possessed by each and every object. Now what is inertia? So we can write the definition here of inertia, that inertia is a property due to which it resists any change that occurs in the state of an object. Okay. So, here what is the state? State can be a state of a rest or of a uniform motion. So, every object is having a property, and that property that it resists any kind of a change which shows the change in its state of rest or of a uniform motion. That is what? That is inertia. Now, on what factor does the inertia depend? So, inertia, it depends upon the mass of the body. Okay. Bigger will be the mass of the object, more will be the mass of the object. We will say inertia will be the mode. Okay, so we can write it. Inertia depends upon the mass of an object. More will be the mass, more will be the inertia. More will be the mass, more will be the inertia. Now, inertia not only depend upon the mass, student. Basically, if we can say about the inertia, if 1 kg, if a object is of 1 kg and object is of 10 kg, so ultimately the mass of the 10 kg is more than that of the mass of the 1 kg of an object. So here the inertia possessed by that of the object 10 kg will be more than that of the inertia possessed by the this 1 kg. So, if the 10 kg is at a state of rest and 1 kg is at a state of rest, 10 kg is having more inertia, 1 kg is having less inertia. Now, let me tell you. So you can understand it by the help of the example, student. If suppose an object is there that is of 1 kg and if an object is there that is of 10 kg, we are saying that the mass of the first object is lesser than that of the second. It means 10 kg is having more mass, and inertia depends upon the mass of the object. It means inertia is directly proportional to the mass of the object. More will be the mass, more will be the inertia. So here in this case, out of both, 10 kg is having more mass than that of the 1 kg. So ultimately mass is more, so inertia will be more here. Here inertia will be less. Now, if we talk about that inertia is more there, inertia is less there, it means here it resists, it is having more tendency to resist any change. This one, 10 kg. And here, since it is having less inertia, it means it is having less tendency to show any kind of a change. This is what we are talking about, the inertia. One is having more inertia, it means having it more, it will resist more to show any kind of a change. And if an object is having less inertia, so it will resist less, because this is the definition, that it is a property due to which an object resists anything. Resist in the change of a state of a motion or of a state of rest. So inertia will be more, so resistivity will be more. Ultimately, if you want to show any kind of a change to both of them, where you have to apply more force to show the change. So absolutely it is the 10 kg mass of the object which is having more inertia. There you have to apply more force to show any kind of a change in its state of a rest or of motion. So more inertia will be there. So more force you have to apply to show any kind of a change also. So we can write it here, that is more inertia in an object have to apply more force to show any change. More force to show any change in its state. So we can say more force, more mass, you have to apply, more inertia will be there and more force will be applied. So we can say more mass will leads to more inertia, and more inertia will leads to more force to show change. Okay, this was about that of the Newton's law. This was about that of the inertia. Now we can understand with the help of the lot of examples are there. With the help of this we can understand the inertia term. So we have seen, students, a ball which is of a 10 kg and 1 kg. So ultimately mass is more here, so inertia will be more, and thus we have to apply more force. Likewise, student, if you're talking about the ball only, you can compare with that of the cricket ball and tennis ball. So cricket ball is much heavier. It means it is having more mass as compared to that of the tennis ball. So to stop a cricket ball, or to stop if a moving ball is there, and to stop a tennis moving ball, you have to apply more force to change its state. Because the cricket ball having more mass, having more inertia also. The same thing with that of a stone which is of 100 kg and a stone is of 200 kg. So there the inertia will be more. So ultimately you have to apply more force on the 200 kg stone so that you can change its state of rest. Or if a mass of a bus is there and a mass of a car is there, so you can understand that bus will have more inertia, so you have to apply more force to stop a bus rather than to a car or to a scooter. So by this we have understood one thing is very clear to us, that yes, when you apply a force on an object, where we have to see that whether it is having more inertia or not, and which totally depend upon the mass of the object. Okay, so here also, students, we have seen that to overcome the inertia we have to apply an external force. So as we have seen in the Newton's first law definition itself explained that object at rest will remain at rest, it will resist any change and change its state of rest. Or object at motion will remain at motion, it will again resist any change in its motion, until and unless you are applying a force on it, external force on it, to show any kind of a change of its state of a rest or of a uniform motion. A lot of examples are there, student, by which we can understand the Newton's first law. And these examples, these applications can be asked in the exam. and most of the time the question is asked on the basis of the example itself. Like if suppose we have kept a cardboard on a glass, and on that cardboard we had kept a coin. Now when you flip the cardboard, what will happen? The coin will fall into the glass. It is because of the Newton's first law of motion.